In this session, we'll discuss how to inquire the raw material information. As we learned in the previous session, we learned how to maintain and enter raw material master file. So from master data, we'll select material option. To inquire an existing fabric or material item, simply type it in or select the fabric item number from the list. So I'm gonna open up the material items browse list and select the fabric number. Like in the Style Master Inquiry, you can inquire the fabric item in general for all colors, or you can pick up a specific color from the list if you would like to inquire only that particular color. So I will select here color black from the selected fabric item number. Like in all other Aria screen toolbar, if you click on the Edit Current Record, the record will open up in the read-write mode, so you will be able to modify any field or piece of information like the fabric description, the fabric content, or any other fields available on the screen. So let us say I want to revise here the planned quantity for that specific item, so I will choose plan, and I will put the quantity planned to be ordered or purchased for that specific fabric. All other information will be available to be modified, like the fabric status. We can, as long as the fabric is being purchased and included in production or cutting ticket orders, so the status would be active. If the fabric is no longer used or cancelled or no more used in production, we can switch the status to on hold or cancelled. All other information, like discussed in the previous session, would be editable. Once you are done with adding or revising all the needed information, click the Save Modifications icon on the toolbar to update the revisions done on that fabric record. Now the same form is used to inquire the transaction done on that specific fabric item number. So when we click on the Quantities tab, we'll see all the quantitative information related to the selected fabric and selected color. As you can see here, you can select many information or many transactions that are done on that specific fabric color. So for instance, you can see the planned quantity, which we just entered on the general tab. You can see if there is any reorder quantity or break units that at this point the fabric would be required to be reordered. You can see the work orders, you can see the work in process, total inventory on hand, available quantity, current usage, history usage, in transit, or received quantity. So each of these lines represent a piece of information. So if we take the work order as an example and we click here on this button next to the work orders, that will take us into the details of these transactions. So the system will display all the material purchase order that combine the total work in process or the total work orders displayed on the main screen. So here you will be able to see in details what are the purchase order quantity, what's the PO completion date, PO available date, and so on and so forth. So the same applies to any other piece of information, to work in process, inventory, and so on. Any of these line of information, if we click on the button next to it, that will take us to the detailed transactions happened on that specific fabric and color. So here, for instance, I clicked on total inventory, so I'll be able to see all the transactions in and out that are posted to that specific fabric item number. So I can see here any physical inventory, any received PO, any issuance or issue transaction done for that fabric on any given cutting ticket. So To go over what's the meaning of each of these piece of information, the work order is actually representing the total purchase orders issued or created for that specific fabric, no matter if the order is received or still on open status. However, work in progress or work in process would represent only the open fabric purchase order that are still not received yet into the inventory. If we have any return purchase order, those will show up on work in process on return, and whatever quantity received into the inventory as inventory on hand will be represented on the total inventory quantity or the total inventory line. Available quantity will simply represent the total of the work in progress plus the total of inventory. That will give us the total availability, assuming that the work in process will be at some point will be received as inventory on hand. So this will represent our total inventory. Current usage will represent the issuance of that fabric against any production order or style cutting tickets. So any cutting ticket that is using this fabric in the production operation of that specific cutting ticket, the quantity issued from that fabric against this cutting ticket would show up under the current usage. The difference between the current usage and the history usage, that the current usage represent the issued quantity against the cutting ticket that are still in open status and not yet complete or closed, versus the history usage will represent the total issued quantity from a given fabric, no matter what's the cutting ticket status. So even after the cutting ticket is closed or complete, the history usage would still represent the fabric quantity issued against those cutting tickets. In transit, quantity will be populated only in case if we maintained material PO shipment, as will be discussed in further sessions. Receiving quantity will represent the material purchase order that have been received for that specific fabric and color. So as you can see, the quantities tab is really very important, as it brings in one place, it brings all the transactions done on a specific fabric item number, and it gives you the opportunity to drill down to the detailed transaction of any piece of information or of any piece of quantity types displayed on that screen. Other tabs on that screen would be the same like what we discussed in the first session of how to add and maintain the fabric master list. So special tab, you can inquire all the related information, like when the fabric was started or was introduced, the sold out date, the default vendor item number, and so on and so forth. Packing information would be used to represent how many pieces of this fabric would fit in a carton, what's the master pack quantity and dimension, versus if there's any inner pack carton or poly bag quantity and dimension as well. So now we discussed how to edit or inquire a fabric that has transaction and how to see the quantity information related to that specific fabric. If let us say this fabric is no longer in use, we simply can deactivate the fabric by editing the record, then switching the status to cancelled status. That means that the system will prevent this fabric from being used going forward on any transaction like purchase order or usage on any cutting ticket. However, if the fabric was never transacted and there is no existing quantities on that fabric, you can delete the fabric by simply clicking the delete the current record. That would get rid of the entire fabric record. However, again, this option would be available only in case if there is no active transactions done on that specific fabric item number. So now we discussed in this session how to inquire an existing fabric number either on the color level or on all colors level. we learned how to inquire the quantities information and the related transaction for a given fabric, and we learned how to deactivate a fabric once it's no longer in production or no longer purchased by simply switching the status to cancelled, or if the fabric is not active or there is no transaction on the fabric, we can delete the entire fabric record.